Ellen McCauley at Pray It Off. I'm in Syracuse, New York. And last night, and Susan, I'm glad you mentioned them, we talked about the 4 C's of weight loss, the successful weight loss, confidence. We talked about that last week, trusting your own abilities and trusting that God wants to help us. We talked about making goals, and we talked about imagining ourselves getting those awards on June 23rd. The next C we're going to talk about tonight, it's called commitment. And that includes a drive, an internal drive to want to be successful at this. But it also means that sometimes that drive is so hard to do alone that we need a supernatural kick in the pants. We need grace in order to have a commitment to the plan. So we're going to talk about commitment, drive, and grace. The first thing I'd like you to do is turn your eyes to the back of the food log, because on the back of the food log I have put a goal-setting worksheet. I love writing things down, and I love highlighting it with a yellow highlighter when it's done. It makes me feel good. And isn't that what we need to do in life? Find more things that make us feel good. And there are short-term goals and there's long-term goals. Let's just pretend I'm doing a short-term goal. Number 1, attend as many Pray It Off meetings as I healthily can. That's a good short-term goal, isn't it? Number 2, really check when I have an 8-ounce glass of water and really strive to do the 8-ounce glasses of water. How hard's that? Short-term goal. Number 3, get off my butt at least 10 minutes to do something, and maybe I can cook it up to 20 minutes. Just, these are examples. Do whatever you feel is a good short-term goal. And guess what? It doesn't even have to be about this. You could have a short-term goal that says, get more help around the house. Maybe you're doing it all and you don't have time for yourself. Your short-term goals are just that. They're yours. They can be whatever you need to take care of yourself. One person said tonight, I joined this group because at my age I finally said, it's time to concentrate on me. And that's not a sin. God says, love others as you love yourself. And so many years, many of us have just been doing the rat race and not loving ourselves. And then the long-term goals. Now, I did a BMI chart recently, and I'm like, wow, they want me to wear, like it says obese, overweight. No, what are they now? I think it's obese. There's 4 of them. Obese, extremely overweight, and normal weight. And when I figured out what the normal weight was, I said, well, maybe I have my height wrong. Maybe I should add a couple more inches to my height. No, I said, whoa, is that my long-term goal, though? Because when I weighed 176 for 5 minutes in 82, I felt really darn good. It looked really darn good. So if the chart says I have to weigh 160 to be, normal, I'm like, well, I'm going to the doctor's on Monday. My husband and I have the day off, and I made him take the day off because I'm having a complete physical because I haven't had one. I haven't been to the doctor's in 2 years because of the pandemic. So we have a new doctor because Dr. Charles retired. Many of you know him. So they sent you a letter. You have to have this to stay in the practice. So I think it's a good idea. They make you have it. So we're going to go, and I'm hoping he says, Ellen, I've got some bad news. There's something wrong with your thyroid. It's really slow, and you're going to have to take medication. Please, God, let him say those words. I've been wanting to have a slow thyroid for years, but every time they say, it's just fine, Ellen. Okay. So you write down your short-term goals and your long-term goals. I can honestly say that many of you, if not most, will not do that. And I'm saying to you that I really think you should, for yourself. Get out a pen, write them down. Now, we talked about the commitment to weight loss. I'm skipping over grace. Okay, let me go back to that. Boy, without licking my fingers, I really have a hard time. Okay, grace, what it is and what it does. This is such an important article, and it's very small and succinct because unless we have drive, we're not going to do this. We're not going to eat healthy. We're not going to move more. We're not even going to pray. We cannot do this without God's help. That's what makes Pray It Off unique. Unique. I have never had this much success. Yeah, I put on a few pounds, but I've done extremely well. I don't weigh 371 or anywhere near it. I've done extremely well over the years, and I never could do it on my own. I only could do it with the help of God or His grace. And many people don't realize there's two kinds of grace, sanctifying and actual. Sanctifying stays in your soul. We are our souls. And we are born with original sin, and baptism gets rid of that, and confession purifies our soul. Anytime we do penance, reconciliation, we purify our soul. Mortal sin affects our soul. That's why it's so important to get rid of that mortal sin. But the other kind of grace, the actual grace, is that supernatural push, encouragement, kick in the pants. And you know what the thing is? You got to ask for it. So many people say, well, God didn't help me. I'm like, did you ask Him? Did you say, God, I need your help with this? And my mother-in-law used to say, you only ask God once, and He knows what you said. You don't need to say it over and over. I don't think it hurts to say it over and over. I don't think He said, you already said that, Ellen. I think if it makes you feel better to say it over and over, like one person, like St. Monica, for example, prayed for 38 years for her son, and he finally turned his life over to God. Was it 38 years? It was something like that. She prayed the same thing over and over. So you got to ask for that supernatural push. God keeps giving them to us. If we ask, we just have to go along with it. Venial sins, people say, aren't that big a deal, but it weakens us. You know, I always say, you start with the marijuana, and the next thing you know, you're drinking the hard drugs. It's like you start with the lies, and the next thing you know, it's like a little bit easier to miss Mass, a little bit easier to do this. It's a slow, like, you don't gain weight. You don't go from 150 to 200 in a week. It's a slow process. And all of a sudden, you weigh 200. It's the same thing with sinning. You're not a really good person, and all of a sudden you go to H in a handbasket. It's a slow process where, I saw this happen in one family. They went to church all the time. They talked about Jesus. They did all these things. And so I talked to them. I said, I've noticed, you've been writing some stuff on Facebook that's very interesting. They're like, well, since the pandemic, we haven't been going to church. And we realize that institutional religion puts too many constraints on people and blah, blah, blah. They start going down a different road. And I'm just saying, you need to stay on a good road, and venial sin can get you moving on the other side. Catholics, Protestants think once you're born again, once you say, I believe in Jesus, you're set. You can do a million bad things, but you're set because you believe in Jesus and you're born again. Catholics, on the other hand, say, wait a minute, no. You have to continually try to be the best person that you can do, believe that Jesus is the Son of God, and do some really good things for the world. And I believe that. I believe you have to continually grow, continually. The more solidly you're wed to sanctifying grace, that's your soul, the more likely you can withstand temptations. And I told you guys that on last Saturday, I had my brother-in-law's party. And, there's everything under the sun there, cake and beers and snacks. And I wasn't even tempted because I asked God to take away the temptations, and I knew that I'd be coming here this week. I prayed in advance. I planned in advance. I had carrot sticks. I had celery sticks. I had a salad prepared with some tuna and oil and vinegar. I had my food. It wasn't like I was starving. So if you plan ahead and you ask for that grace, God is at work in you, both for your will, your good and his pleasure. When we do really good things, it makes God happy. And then it says, shine as lights in this world. And a couple of people this week were telling me what they weighed every day at home when they weighed themselves. And the reason I don't like weighing yourself every day at home is I think you put too much importance on the number of the scale, as if it verified who you are as a person. Plus, it changes so much. You could have water retention one day. You could have a bowel movement you didn't have, to be perfectly frank. There's so many reasons. Once a week is good enough, because the importance is our health, our importance is our relationship with God, and that's the journey that we're on. So, I'm going to stop right there, Bob.